Let's get ready to go to it now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Encounters with Marvin Allen in the Doug Pack. That's DUG. Right now, I'm gonna give everybody a chance to come in the chat and join. I'm gonna post to let them know that we live now. Okay. You want to post in your group?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and just post in your group and let them know that you my guest on my show. Now you want a piece of fish? Oh shit. Yeah. A little piece. You gotta come get it. I'm coming up and get it. I'm coming to get it.
No, for some reason I can't find it.
Find your group?
Well, I found my group. I can't find the link to send your, you know what I mean? The link for yours.
Well, if you have to, then just text it. Text it in your group. Let them know we on YouTube.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Don't forget to hit that like button, y'all.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and write it out.
Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the like button, y'all. Give y'all time enough to see what y'all gotta do because we are live now. And I do have a guest tonight. And we're gonna be discussing, well, I ain't gonna spoil it, but you'll see. We're gonna be discussing cryptids.
Okay, I gotta
Don't
post
forget
it
to
in
hit
the
that
group
like
there.
button, y'all. Yeah, just let them know. Just let them know. I'm gonna give people time enough to get in the chat.
Right, let the list populate a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I put.
So while we doing that, just tell me a little bit about when and what made you get into what you're doing now.
Well, I've always been interested in cryptids for as long as I can remember. I started off with your basic stuff like Loch Ness monster and the early ideas of Bigfoot and things when I was probably 8 years old, 10 years old. I had my first encounter with a creature in my basement. Couldn't see what it was, but it had two large glowing eyes, glowing red eyes that were about a foot apart, and it growled at me. And I took off running back upstairs from the basement and locked the door. I was 12 years old, and it intrigued me to find out more about what that thing could be. So I started researching there, and then later on, a few years went by. I was 16 years old, and I was hunting out by my house one night, and I had a dogman sneak up on me. And luckily, I turned my light on when I did because it was right on top of me, about 10 feet away.
Wow.
Yeah, and whenever it saw me, it turned. It saw that light and it stood up, and it only made one popping sound from its chest, but it stood up and took one step towards me, and I took that as being threatening, and unfortunately, I shot it. if I had to go back, I probably wouldn't do it because now I know more about them. I know more about their, I don't know how, their habits and how they work. It was most likely probably just trying to intimidate me. But when you're a kid and you see a real life werewolf in front of you, you don't hesitate. You're thinking this thing's going to eat me, and that's all there is to it.
Right.
But after that experience, it really got me into researching cryptids and stuff. And at first, I didn't even know what a dogman was. It took me several years just to find the term dogman. Um, it, I was, I think, about 18 or 19 whenever I found just the word dogman, and it was in the Encyclopedia Britannica website. I've looked for it again since to add it into projects, and they must have removed it. But it was in there, back in 2005, 2004. But that's when I had my encounters, was 2002 and 2003. 2003, I was actually attacked by a juvenile dogman. I believe it to be a juvenile because it didn't know how to fight, and it was smaller than the one that I encountered before, although it was still about 6 feet long, not counting its tail. It attacked me, and I had no weapons to defend myself, but luckily, when it lunged at me, I held out my left arm in a fist to try to just stop it and give it something to grab onto rather than my neck, and my arm and hand went down its throat when it opened its jaws all the way. So while I had it like that, I shoved my arm as hard as I could down its throat. I got past my elbow, and then I grabbed it around the neck with the other arm and fell on top of it. And I held it there and squeezed its neck as hard as I could for about 3 minutes until it went limp. And then I got back up and started to clean the slime off of my arm, and it came to within a minute. It's like these things are tough. Like a human being choking to death and being unconscious for 3 minutes with no air. Most humans would be so disoriented they wouldn't even be able to stand up. And this thing's just getting up like nothing happened to it. But it just looked at me for a few seconds, and then it ran back up into the woods. So I really lucked out on that. After that experience, I started looking more for why dogmen do what they do. And there's a lot of good research out there and a lot of good people working on it. That these creatures are very intelligent, very powerful, they heal quickly, and they hold a grudge. Because, like I said, that was in 2002 and 2003. And still to this day, they come to my house at least 2 or 3 times a month, and they beat on my walls and my basement door and my windows and my front door. They don't try to get in. They only tried to get in once, but they didn't really try hard. I think they were just testing the door.
Yeah.
They were pushing on my basement door. I had 3 2x4s screwed up across the doors because I have a double door system in my basement. But I had 3 2x4s screwed up over the door and a tarp over it. And I heard a cracking sound one night. So I grabbed my handgun and went down into the basement. And by then it had already stopped, but those screws were pushed out a good inch and a half. So if they wanted in, they would have got in. I think they were just showing me that, hey, you're not safe. We can come get you at any time. But like I said, they hold a grudge, and I think they take pleasure in toying with us. they don't necessarily want to kill us unless you do something that they deem that deserves it. But they will taunt you. They will haunt you. They will not let you be until you're going crazy.
Right. And that's the truth. That is the God honest truth. You ain't never lied when it comes to that, man. And I know you got some good stuff to talk to us about tonight, man. And
Yes, sir.
I don't really want to hold you up. I want you to get into this. And hey, Marquetta, post in some groups and let them know we live. We just started. Ain't even got into his encounters yet, but I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes. Post in your groups, Marquetta. Let them know we live. You can let Noogie and them know. I posted in Tom live stream to let them know that we will be going live tonight. But I stayed over there with Tom, just to show him love and let him know that I was there for him. So that's all that is. I ain't want nobody to think that we didn't show up or we ain't show love. I'm gonna do that. But just go ahead and post. Hey Derek, what's going on, my friend? What's going on, my friend? How you doing? Hey Vanessa, we got a good one tonight. And he gonna break down the differences between these three. And y'all will see when he starts. Y'all will see the differences between them. What they eat, what they most likely to attack, are they threats to human, all type of stuff. Y'all gonna get it. And then we're gonna break down with me, James, and y'all, we're gonna break down that movie Antlers that's based on the Wendigo. Which he got something for y'all too on the Wendigo tonight too. So y'all can ready to get all that. Y'all can ready to get all that. So don't even worry about that. But before we start, James,
Yeah.
can you tell everybody where you from, what's your name, and stuff like that?
Okay. Sure thing. Well, my name's James West. I'm from southwestern Pennsylvania, Greene County. Born and raised in this county. I've lived here my whole life. And basically, I go out in the woods and look for dogmen and signs of dogmen and Sasquatch. Like I have an event coming up in May where we have a suspected dogman or Sasquatch area that we're going to investigate, possibly an overnight investigation, depending on the weather. And I host meetings. I'm the local chapter leader for the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project, and I'm the primary administrator for Greene County PA Cryptids on Facebook.
Wow. Thank you, and I hope everybody got that. Hope everybody got that down. What he just told y'all. Okay. The next thing, James. How many years have you been doing this?
Well, see, I started with the interest when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And something I've never really discussed with anybody. My grandfather passed away when I was 9 years old. And I, my grandmother and my uncle still lived in that house, and I was there frequently. From I was a latchkey kid, and my parents worked every day, and so I would take the bus home and walk 3 miles to my grandmother's house every day, being 8 years old. Go there, and we would hear whistling coming from my grandfather's workshop with nobody there. We would hear his, he always wore these heavy boots, and they would thump when he walked. We would hear that thumping sound walking in the back rooms. Well, that interested me, got me interested in the paranormal. Well, the cryptid aspect of it was, like I said, when I was about 9, I just started getting interested in um, the cryptids because I had an experience one night when I was, oh, I wasn't even 10 yet. We just moved into the new house. My dad was working in the basement, building a shelving system into the wall. So I snuck down one night, you know, about 10, 11 o'clock. I snuck down into the basement just to see what he was doing, or, see what he had gotten done. Uh, Turned on the basement light, which it only illuminated about a quarter of the basement. You had to walk down into the basement and then walk into the darkness for about 10 feet to flip on the next light that would illuminate the rest of the room. Well, I turned the first light on, walked down, and before I could do anything, I heard something growl, like a real low growl. Well, I looked over and it growled again, and it opened its eyes. It had golf ball sized eyes that were glowing red, and they were spaced about a foot apart. And it growled at me again. I reached behind me for anything I could find, and there was a socket set there, and I grabbed a socket out of it and threw it at it as hard as I could throw it, and I ran back up the basement stairs and shut the door and locked it. And after that, that got me interested in cryptids, even though chances are it was a paranormal entity. It was, maybe a shadow being or a type of demonic being, as I've had issues in that house with demonic beings. I've had 37 crosses taken off the walls by something while I was asleep in the room. My mother would kept crucifixes in the living room. She had a huge collection of them. Well, actually, it was 36 crosses because 36 were knocked off the wall. I woke up to them falling off the wall, just one at a time, popping off the walls. And the 37th one was this 14, 15-inch long golden cross that had an actual, the Jesus figurine on it. And it was turning upside down and stayed upside down. And I was maybe 20 when that happened. I'm 36 now. Um, I was possessed by something in that house. I was having a real bad string of bad luck. I was down in the dumps. Spiritually, I was weakened. And I lost 2 hours of time one night. I went there to take care of my animals and take care of the house. Because I live in two different places. I have a house in the one town, and my girlfriend lives in another town, and I stay with her to help her out. We're both disabled, so I try to help her out. And like I said, I went to the house to take care of the dogs and everything, and something came over me. I just it almost felt like I just closed my eyes, and whenever I opened them, I was in the fetal position, laying by my dog's crate, just with tears streaming down my cheeks, and my dogs were standing around me, licking me and nosing at me. I think they brought me out of it, honestly, because nothing else could have. I didn't just come out of it, especially with something that powerful that can possess you. I came out of it, and apparently I had called my girlfriend and said that um, I was. I know this is crazy, but I told her that I was something that was older than the Earth itself. I was there when the Earth formed, and I was there when time was created. You cannot get rid of me. I'm more powerful than anything that you know. And then it said to her that it was going to kill the dogs first, then set the house on fire, and have James sit in the middle of it and burn to death. So that's my little possession story. Um,
Wow.
yeah. And
Okay,
I have to
James.
laugh about it now because if I didn't, I'd be in therapy.
Right. Okay, James. Without further ado, I'm gonna let you do what you do. You can go ahead and tell us each and every one of your encounters and experiences and give them to us to the best of your knowledge, details for everything. And I'm going to turn it on over to you. Show is yours.
All right, sir. You want me to go over my dogman experiences as well, Marvin? Oh, did I lose you? Well, for anybody that's still watching, I'll go into my dogman encounters a little bit. I was 16 years old, and I went behind my house. Now, mind you, back then, nobody really in my area had cell
James,
phones. Yeah,
hey, James, this is what I was saying, though. After you finish that encounter, I'm going to
yeah,
give them time enough to ask you a few questions on each
sure,
encounter. So
sure.
go ahead and start your first encounter and be sure to let me know when you're done with it so they can ask
Okay,
questions. Okay, go.
okay, okay. Well, as I was saying, I was 16 years old. I woke up about 11:30 at night. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to go hunting for coyotes behind my house. I was about 500 yards from my house. I walked back there. It was snowing. It was a blizzard, but I went anyway. Like I said, I just didn't. I wanted to wear myself out in a healthy way. Well, I walked back through the snow, 500 yards. Uh, Put out my bait and my game collar and got everything set up. And I sat down with my back against a large pile of gravel that the mine was using to build roads with. So I sat down, my knees were up, feet flat on the ground, brought my shotgun up across my knees, turned my game collar on, sat there and called for a good 45 minutes. Started to get really cold, and I had about an inch of snow accumulated on me. So I said, enough's enough. I'm going to get moving. Well, I had a million candle watt spotlight that had a red filter on it because whenever you hunt canines, the red filter prevents them from seeing the light for a few seconds and gives you time to take a shot at them. Well, I turned the light on and the button locked in position, and I looked up, and 10 feet away from me, there's this giant. At first, I thought it was a giant coyote. And as I looked at it, I went, holy God, this is a werewolf. It fit what you'd expect from the movies. I mean, there were slight differences, but generally it looked like something from The Howling, other than this one looked real. It didn't look like the fake stuff in the movies that you can tell is obviously fake. Well, it was sniffing the ground. It poked its head up and looked right at me when the light came on. Proceeded to stand up, pop its ribs at me, puffed its chest out, and took a step towards me. So here it's 9 feet, 8 feet, about 8 to 7 feet away with that one step, and I took that as a threatening gesture, and I fired one shot and hit it in the chest. It yelped and ran away. I fired at it 2 more times, but I believe I missed with those shots. I was using #2 coyote loads, which, for those of you that aren't familiar with firearms, #2 is the next size down from buckshot, so it's pretty heavy duty. At that range, I could have killed a grizzly bear with that gun and that shell that I was using. Anyway, I walked up. There was some blood on the ground. I followed it for about 30 feet, and then I realized this thing's massive. It's wounded. I'm in its territory. The smart bet is to leave. You know, I just decided that it wasn't worth it. I followed it for a little bit, and it quit bleeding and just left tracks. From a wound that large, I don't know how it quit bleeding unless it had internal hemorrhaging, or it had rapid healing. There's the only two things that it could be. Anyway, I decided to let it be, and I walked back out 2 miles in the opposite direction so that I could stay on open trails and have open woods to walk through. And I got back to the main road and walked back to my house, went in. My dad was laying on the couch, and he said, "Did you do any good?" And I said, "No, I didn't see nothing." And I just went upstairs, stripped down, and went to bed and laid there all night. I didn't go to sleep. I laid there all night just contemplating, did this just happen? Or did I dream this? But clearly I didn't. I mean, I had 3 shells missing. I had my bait missing. I had, my gun smelled like it had just been fired, and my clothes were still sitting there with snow on them. My boots were covered with snow still, and mud. So that would be the end of that encounter. So Marvin, whenever you want to do your questions, that's fine.
Okay, do anybody have any questions about that first encounter? I have one. How far you was when you hit him?
About anywhere from 7 to 10 feet.
Oh, so you got him good.
Oh, he was close. The shell with a shotgun, whenever you fire it, it needs at least 8 yards or so to actually open up and throw the pellets out of the wad, is what it's called. It's a plastic flower looking thing. It has petals on it. Whenever it opens up,
Right.
it throws the pellets. Well, at that
Before it
range,
started, go ahead.
at that range, it hit the wad, hit it. Like every pellet hit it as one solid thing, as one solid 1 ounce chunk of lead. So it was like shooting it with a slug, basically.
Okay, let me look and see if we got any questions, buddy. Hold up. Hold up. Let me look through here now. See if we got any questions. Hold up. Okay, maybe. All right, they said somebody wanted to know, why were you using a shotgun to hunt coyotes?
Whenever you bait call, you use the shotgun so you can get a spread. It's just easier because you're calling them in close. You want them within 20 yards of you. So,
Okay.
yeah, because it's you gotta remember, it's pitch black out, and the only light
Right.
you have is if you turn on that light, and there was no moon that night. It was, like I said, it was inky dark out. It was pitch black. And but yeah, you use the shotgun because, I mean, if the more projectiles you have firing at something, the more chances you have of hitting it. That, I mean, that's, I guess that was pretty obvious. for that part. Um,
Right.
but that's why personally I use a shotgun. It's more for the sport of it. It gives the animal a chance to outwit you. I mean, I don't believe in using thermal sights to hunt animals and all that. That's cheating in my book. It's one thing to use a thermal to find them, but you know, I quit hunting at night after I had the experience, so I don't have to worry about using thermal stuff anymore because it's always daylight.
Right. All right, okay. That might be the last question for that. Hold on. Yeah, I think that's the last question for that. So, everybody else, James, go right into your next encounter, my friend.
Okay, well, that was the winter of 2002. My first encounter happened. Uh, it was about 2 weeks before Christmas. Well, that following summer of 2003, it was in August, early August. I was walking to a friend's house. He lived about a half a mile away from me. So I was walking up the road, and coincidentally, it was the road that I came out on from my first encounter when I retreated and made it back to the road. It was the same road that I had retreated to from the first encounter. Well, I'm walking down this road, and about halfway down it, there's a bend in the road, a slight bend to where you can't see the ends of the road anymore. Well, just as soon as I hit that, and I couldn't see more than 100 feet in either direction, this black, it looked like a black dog to begin with. At at the start, I thought it was just somebody's big black dog until I realized this thing's huge. It was like if you took three bull mastiffs and could put them together. It was probably, if I had to guess, but it was lean looking too. It wasn't heavy looking, but you could tell it was big.
Wow.
I I would guess that it probably weighed about 250, 275. And at the time I weighed 165 pounds. So
You would think because of the size of this thing, you said it would have been heavier. That's just a
you would,
guess that you throwing out there.
yeah, I mean, you would think that, but and I'll tell you the reason why I think it was about 100 pounds less than what it looked like here in a second. Well, it was about 50 feet from me, and before I knew it, it ran at me and it lunged at me, and all I could think of doing was I turned my body to the right, made a fist with my left hand, and shoved my arm out, thinking I'd rather have my arm in its mouth than my head or neck. You know, that was just my defensive maneuver. I had no weapons with me whatsoever, not even a pocket knife. Well, when it lunged up, this thing had a big mouth. I mean, an extremely large mouth. Well, I hit it dead center in the mouth, and it shoved its own mouth down to where my hand was down its throat. And when I realized that, I shoved as hard as I could with my left arm down its throat as hard as I possibly could push. And I got my arm past my elbow down its throat. Then I used my right arm, wrapped around him, got its neck, and fell on top of it. And this is why I think it was only 250 to 275, because I was playing football at the time, so I was fairly strong, and I was a linebacker, and I just hit it the right way to knock it down. If it would have been 300 pounds, I wouldn't have been able to knock it down. I don't think, or if it was bigger than 300 pounds, I wouldn't have been able to knock it down. So I think it was a juvenile because it didn't have the concept to just stand up and fight me and slash me to bits. It tried to lunge at me. I don't think it had the experience of fighting with humans. So it was thinking easy kill. It didn't think that anything would go awry. And thank God it did, because I would be dead. But anyway, when I fell on top of it, I held it and squeezed its neck for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that, and its body went limp. And I stood up, as I was standing up, I pulled my arm out of it, and I was just covered in this greenish, reddish, yellowish slime. It was like a pinkish yellow slime. And I scraped that off of me as best I could. And within the 10 seconds that it took me to wipe my arm off, that thing was coughing and stood up and looked at me. And I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm dead now. And one thing I would like to add too that I forgot to say was when I was initially choking it, I still kind of thought it might be a big dog because it didn't have like wolf-like characteristics. It had more canine, like dog-like. Well, it grabbed me by the leg.
One thing, James, did you see its arms or hands at one time? Did it
Yes.
try to take its hands
Well,
and pull your arm out its mouth?
That's actually what I was just talking about. It grabbed me by my leg.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had briar guard pants on. If anybody's familiar with them, my dad used to go to these gun shows all the time for work, and he got me this real heavy pair of briar guard pants. They were actually interwoven with Kevlar to like, so if you could walk through a jagger bush or multiflora rose and it would just repel it. You could walk right through it. Well, thank God I had these on because I was going to my friends. We were going down in the woods to clear a briar patch. So I had those on, and it grabbed me by the legs. And that's when I realized it wasn't just a dog. But by that time, I had already got my arm in it and had it by the neck. And like I said, I just put all my weight on its head and fell down. And once I got its head moving, it just let go and fell. It didn't really fight back too much. It struggled for a minute, but I think it was so disoriented from just, from choking, it panicked and didn't know what to do. That's the thing I can think of, because it should have just ripped me apart. And that's another reason why I think it was a juvenile with no experience, because a veteran dogman with experience of 20, 30 years.
They would know what to do.
Exactly. And I think maybe, and this is just one of my thoughts, the one that I shot, that might have been one of its offspring coming after me. Like the "you shot my daddy" type thing, so I'm going to come after you,
Right.
But that's the only thing I can think of, because it tried to like move, but it just like gave up after about 20 seconds. It just like it gave up once I had it in the hold, and which is weird. I mean, I've had dogs attack me before. I've been attacked by Rottweilers, pit bulls, German shepherds, everything you can think of. The town that I live in, people will get these dogs and they make them mean to keep people away from their house. Well, they forget about them and they break their chains and attack you if you walk by. I had a pit bull attack me right beside of my house. I was walking down the road and a pit bull broke its chain and attacked me. And I fought it the same way. I just let it run at me, and when it got to me, I jumped behind it and grabbed it around the neck and put it in a chokehold. I mean, that's the only way you can fight a dog without seriously hurting it.
Right. All right. So that's the end of the second one?
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions as far as that one? I do. Did your arm hurt at any time when it was down its throat?
It didn't hurt, as in like saying that it had like an acid in it or anything. I didn't get far enough down it, I don't think, to hit stomach acid. But my arm was sore for about 3 days afterwards, though. It tried to bite down on my bicep, but Well, like with a regular canine, if you can get an object past their the back of their throat, they just naturally, the way their muscles work, they can't bite down. So it tried to bite down, but it didn't even have enough force to break my skin.
Okay. Wow. Let me see. Hold on. I'm going through them
Yeah,
now.
I just had a few. They looked like scratches, but without any blood drawn. You know, like where your skin just turns red from it. That's all it was. Now getting the stuff off my arm was another story because
Right.
I had to go. I went to my friend's house and he went, "My
Okay.
God, what did you do?" And I had to scrub my arm for 2 hours to get all that off of me.
All right. All right. What I was going to ask you, what I was going to ask you was far as the not the part that far as the mouth, but what I was going to ask you, did you at any at any time so you didn't have like it didn't like bite down on your arm?
It tried to. Like, I mean, I could feel its muscles in its neck and head trying to bite down, but it like the teeth barely reached me. Like it couldn't bite all the way down. It was only able to move its jaw probably an inch.
Okay. Okay, somebody just asked a question. They said wait a minute, let me get to the question. Wait a minute, I'm getting to that question that somebody asked. They want to know what state did this happen in?
Pennsylvania, Southwest Pennsylvania, Greene County.
Greene County, Pennsylvania, y'all.
Yeah, actually, if you want to be more specific, Eastern Greene County. There's a little town in Eastern Greene County called Nemacolin, not to be confused with the resort Nemacolin Woodlands. If you find that, you're in Fayette County, which is the county next to us. But if you can Google it. You go on Google Maps and type in Nemacolin, PA 15351, and it'll show you. On that map, you'll see a slate dump. It looks like a big mountain of coal, but it's actually shale and slate. But in the pine trees, you'll see a bunch of pine trees right below the hill. And if you go to the right, you'll see the pine trees turn back into a regular deciduous forest type tree with maples and
Yes.
hickory and stuff.
Gotta
It was right in those trees right there. That's exactly
right.
where.
Got another question, and it's coming from Vanessa. And Vanessa want to know. She said that do you think that the fur could help the blood clot?
You know, it's a possibility. I I researched the phenomenon a little bit more after this. I had a guy contact me and say that he was out hunting deer and he shot a deer, hit it a perfect shot through the chest. But what happened was the impact was so clean that the blood was able to coagulate inside of it, and the entry hole and exit wound were small enough that the blood just pooled inside of the deer, and it barely bled.
Okay. Okay. Now Al want to know what did its teeth look like?
Like if you have you ever been around a purebred German Shepherd? It was just like that, only a good inch and a half longer, and obviously bigger around. I mean, it was weird, like because I've investigated a lot of reports and researched a lot, and a lot of people say they look like they have too many teeth for their mouth. This one looked like it only had maybe 20 teeth, 22 teeth, something like that. Somewhere around in there. It
Right.
didn't have a bunch of teeth. So that's another reason why I think it might have been a young one, because it didn't have its full set of teeth yet.
Okay. Now another question. Want to know how big was it?
6 foot long, I would estimate, not counting the tail. If you had this one had a tail on it, the first one didn't. It
Okay.
the first one had a stub tail, like maybe 3 inches long. It looked like it had been broken off or something. But the second one had a tail probably a foot long, foot and a half. Yeah, about a foot and a half long. But it was, I never saw it stand up, so I couldn't estimate with my height. I was 5'4" at the time. So I
Newly
couldn't.
one. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
I was just saying I couldn't estimate it as looking eye to eye with it standing up. But like I said, to judge it laying down, it was from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail would have been about 7 to 7.5 feet.
Okay. Newly want to know, was it on all fours when it charged you?
Yeah, it was on all fours the whole time, except for when it tried to grab me. Well, I
Oh,
mean, it
okay.
succeeded in grabbing me, but it couldn't dig its claws in because I had Kevlar pants on. Thank God for my
Okay.
dad.
So Nugi said it only had one row of teeth, right? Not double rows.
Nope, just one row, just like a dog.
Okay. Okay. All right then. Let's go. Let's get into this next one.
Okay, real short. I was driving on the same road that I've had these encounters on, and this was just last year in June. I was driving by. They cut big 200-foot wide right of ways down the hill and up the other hill, and then on both sides of the road to accommodate power lines coming in. They put in these giant power stations, and in the right of way, not the closest one to me, down the hill, but the farthest hill from me, I caught something out of the corner of my eye, and I went, just quickly decided this was worth checking out. I mean, it only take me a second, so I stopped, put the car in reverse, and backed up. And lo and behold, there's a somewhere between 8 and 10 foot. Like I said, it was real far away. It was probably 250 yards away. So it was hard to gauge the height, other than there's a tree there that was close to the same elevation as it that I measured the next day. That tree was 6 foot tall. Well, 6'3" actually, but just say 6 foot tall. And this thing was a good 2 to 3 feet over it from what I could see. But whenever I saw it, it's like it locked eyes with me from that far away. It focused on me because I stopped the car, and it focused on me, and it just ran into the woods. The whole thing took 3 to 5 seconds. So I mean, it was a quick estimate, but I'm going based off of that tree over there that it had to be at least 8 foot tall, and it was I believe to be a Sasquatch.
Wow.
And then later on, same time last year, 2 months later, I was driving on the same road, same stretch, but I saw it on the opposite side of the hill. To my right, it was on a gravel road leading to the power plant that they just built back in there. It's a reclaimed shale plant. You walk down this steep hill of gravel for maybe 200, 300 feet, and then up another side for 200 or 300 feet. And it was standing on top of that hill, but about 40 to 50 feet to the right, right underneath of those double poles. And when I say pole, I mean these things are 10 feet around at the base, sunk in concrete, and they're 30 foot tall, and they're running power through them. So the whole portal issue comes up because portals occur near power lines, or so they say. So maybe they're coming out of something there. There's a lot of people that think Sasquatch is an interdimensional creature. If so, Could these power lines be a way for them to travel easier? Possibly. But I've seen them in line with those power lines twice now, and it looked exactly like the other one. So I'm thinking it was the same one, but it stood there for about 30 seconds, and I sat there and watched it with binoculars, and it just stood there. It was behind a little bit of shrub that went up to about its knee, so I couldn't see the feet on it, but I could see that it had human legs, human torso, human arms. Only its arms were down to its knees, rather than a human's are down to about mid-thigh. Its arms were down past its knees while it was standing there. Like I said, I watched it for maybe 25 to 30 seconds, and then it just casually walked away, walked into the woods.
Wow. Wow.
So there's a lot happening in this county.
I already know. Anybody got any questions on that one?
Yeah, we actually had a book wrote by Kevin Paul. He has written 2 books now about Greene County. It's called Haunted Hills and Hollows, and then What Lurks in Greene County. And then the second one is Haunted Hills and Hollows 2, What Still is Lurking in Greene County. The late Rosemary Ellen Guiley named Greene County the most haunted county in the country.
Anybody got any questions? Wait a minute. Wait to see if anybody got any questions. Hold on. That's crazy. Yeah, but it's been a lot of sightings come out of there. Anybody got any questions for that last encounter? Because this last part is deep. And then we're going to get in. Matter of fact, James, get into the project that you was just working on or just did about those 3 and break down what they are and all that stuff.
Okay, sir.
So this is, get ready for this one, y'all. It's a good one. Because it's going into what we're going to talk about tonight. And that is the Wendigo. Go ahead.
Okay. You want me to start with the Wendigo, sir?
No, that's going to be last.
Okay. Well, do you want me to start with the Gugly?
Yeah. However you want to do it.
Okay. Well, I've been working on projects lately. I mean, that's a lot of what you do as an investigator. You're constantly writing something or recording something or watching something or reading something. It never ends. It's just like a daily thing. I mean, like I wake up, check my 1,000 messages that I have, and then start writing. So just a quick, I don't want to keep you forever here.
No, so, go ahead.
Basically what this is the Gugly. If y'all are familiar with that, the Gugly, which its name also means the face eater. Okay. The Geniscawa, or the Stone Man, and Patty, which is the Patterson-Gimlin film that we all are common. That's what we call our common Bigfoot. Okay. There are multiple forms of these things. A quick Google search for types of Bigfoot. Click on images. You'll find tons of different stuff. Well, the most accurate ones that I could find based on what I've seen are there's a couple charts. It's a type A or classification A, type 1. Okay, it looks just like almost like the Patty that you would be expecting to see. Little thick in the forehead, little stout, usually about 8 foot tall. Then you have the type A class 4. Okay, the class, we're a little out of sync here as far as the numbers go, but there's a reason for that. The type 4 is basically a relative of the Patty, but he's a mean son bitch. He won't come after you to kill you, but if you come near him, he'll throw rocks at you, he'll throw logs at you. I mean, possibly kill you, injure you, but they won't eat you. They're primarily a vegetarian, like the type 1. Okay, and they often have reddish colored eyes. Their eyes don't reflect light normally, but this type does. The red in its eyes, if you hit it with a flashlight at night, will reflect red at you. So if you've ever seen videos where they think they're looking at something and it has red eyes, if it's 8 foot off the ground and has red eyes, it's probably the type 4. Okay, then we have a type class B type 2, which this is the more, it has a pug nose to it, only about an inch or two long, flat nose. To look at it, you wouldn't even think it was a Bigfoot. You'd think it was more of an alien, other than it's covered in hair and it's 7 to 9 feet tall. Typically, their faces and the tops of their heads are either very sparsely covered with hair or not covered with hair at all. They have big nocturnal eyes. I've tried to find out, but it's hard to find stuff about it. To the best of my knowledge, their eyes do not reflect light, just like a human being's. So the type 1 and the type 2 both don't reflect. The type 4 does. Okay. Type 2, class B type 2 is not mean, but territorial. If you get near it, it will attack you and it will bite you. That's its primary attack, is a bite. They're a little spindly if you look at them. They're like the beanpole of the Sasquatch family. I mean, they're still huge compared to a human, but they're on the smaller side as far as body mass. And like I said, usually 7 to 9 feet tall, but small on body mass. So what they do is, if you're in their territory and they want you gone, they may throw something at you. They may not. They're not as intelligent as the other types, but they're still intelligent enough to try non-violence to get you to leave first. As most Sasquatch are that way. They're non-violent. They don't want to fight you. They just want you to leave. Well, like I said, this one will actually sneak up behind you and bite you on the shoulder or bite you in the neck, not to kill you, but to make you leave. It won't rip your flesh off. It'll bite you. I mean, I'm not saying that it wouldn't rip your flesh off. I mean, that anything can happen with a wild animal, but typically they bite and release, like to signify, you need to leave. So then we move to type B, or class B type 3, which that is your primate looking Bigfoot. That's where our Gugwe would fall in. They look a lot more apish. They have a 4 to 5 inch long snout. They have razor sharp teeth, usually about 2 to 3 inches long. They have the canines that are 2 to 3 inches long, and then incisors that are an inch long. They're made specifically and only for killing and eating meat. That's what they do. I've read about 50 reports of them having a choice between a table full of fruit type situation at a picnic, and they still attack the people. So they're definitely carnivores, and they're definitely cannibalistic. And if you see one, back away slow. Don't show your fear. Don't try to intimidate it, because you're not going to. Just back away slowly and hope to God it ignores you. If it runs at you, the best advice I can give you, if you don't have a firearm or something, is just run and hope to God you can outrun it, because it's not coming to play. It's not coming to just punch you or throw a rock. It's coming to kill you. It wants to decapitate you and eat your brain. These things are bad news. And our Genescala falls into that category as well. They're very apish-like, have a 4 to 5 inch nose as well, But what they do that differentiates them, they are the Gugwees are usually, from what I've been reading, between 5 and 800 pounds is like a normal size. Not saying that there aren't any bigger than that or smaller than that, but that's typically the normal. The Genescawa though is usually 800 to 1100 pounds. That's your biggest difference. That and the Genescawa is more intelligent. They actually will make weapons, and I've read a couple reports where it was a Native American folklore that they said that the Genescawa or the stone men actually used fire. They didn't use it as a weapon, but they used it to cook meat.
Now, James.
Yeah.
Now, not meaning to cut you off, but I did an encounter years ago, and this encounter, and mind you, I haven't seen nobody post up on this since I first brought this to light. I talked to this older guy that was in the Vietnam War.
Yes.
Who fought over in Vietnam. And I forgot what was we talking about that we came up with the subject.
Yeah, that he probably told you about the rock apes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my uncle actually was in Vietnam in '65.
Right. He said they was over there. He said it's a place over there called the Harsaw Valley, which they used to call it the North Rocket Pocket. He said when they was going into this brush, the Vietnamese was just like he said it was like they was just disappearing because you would see them once and then you wouldn't see them again. Like they had underground bunkers that they knew the location and could go down up under them. Well, he said that they got them. He said he had a platoon of 12. He said that they got them into that the Warsaw Valley between those two mountains.
Yeah.
And he said as they walking, they start seeing, small rocks being thrown. Right. Then all of a sudden, big rocks. Then he said he seen one the size of an office chair.
Oh, yeah.
Just come hurling down. I mean, and just crush one of his crew, one of his crew members. Just crushed them. And he said they let them M16 off. Right. Just shooting all of them. He said, but these things was moving so fast. It was just incredible for how large they was and how big they was that to move that fast. He said they was hitting them and the bullets was bouncing off of them.
Yeah.
And they said they used the M79 grenade launchers. And he said they still didn't do nothing.
Wow.
He said they reported all that to the local authorities, the government, and all that. And they covered this shit straight up.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, my uncle was there too, and he doesn't like talking about it, but he told me about the rock apes in Vietnam, that they would throw rocks at you and boulders. They actually they were on seek and destroy mission, and the rock apes somehow found loose boulders and waited for them to walk up this trail, and then dumped an entire landslide of boulders down on top of them and killed 6 people.
That it was crazy though, man, because he said these creatures was just powerful. And the thing that get me though, James, that ever since I posted that, then it was years later that somebody would, post something on it about these rock creatures.
Right, right.
You know, so I want you to go ahead and finish getting into that so we can get ready to get into this Wendigo.
And it's very possible that the rock apes of Vietnam are some form of the Geniscow the Stone Men.
Could be.
It sounds like they do the same thing. And yeah, like the Geniscow typically are 9+ feet tall. Oftentimes you see them 10, 11 feet tall. And like I said, they typically will weigh 800 to 1,100 pounds.
Is that your phone, James? Like a computer or something in the background
No, I don't hear anything.
that's making that noise? You don't hear it?
It sounds like it's stopped.
Yeah. Try turning
Yeah,
your volume down a little.
yeah, I don't know. It seems like it was there for a second, and then it went away. Um, okay. Anyway, the reason why they call the Geniscow the Stone Man, Stone Giant, or the Stone Giant Man is what they do is they go and pack. They have long hair that's 10 to 12 inches long typically. What they do is they go and they pack themselves and groom themselves with mud and clay. They let that mud harden on them, and what happens is it creates an armor-like shell on them that can't be penetrated by arrows or spears. And that's straight from Native American lore from fighting the stone men that bow and arrows and spears are useless against them. They would raid villages and steal, abduct women and children, take babies. They
They talk about the
it's
Wendigo.
rumored that they prefer the flesh of infants,
Going
which
down
is
tonight.
terrible, but
Yeah,
that's what they
James.
prefer.
When I
They will abduct people,
so get
and
ready.
the warriors from these tribes could not do anything to fight back. They were just being slaughtered
We getting
whenever
ready.
whenever the Gentile wanted to kill them. There was no fight at all. Um,
So please
also,
have y'all questions ready.
they're
Or
highly
strong
aggressive,
thing.
just like the Gugwe are.
This thing really is.
They're not as aggressive, but they're far more aggressive than
How
any common Bigfoot.
is it?
And because they're
Now,
intelligent, they can have sinister means, they can have malicious
and
ideas.
turn them into this hideous creature. It's crazy. So get ready, because that's how it feels. Okay, James, go ahead and finish up so we can get into the Wendigo. I don't know what that sound is though, but it
Yeah,
just started up.
I don't know what it is.
See, it just stopped. No,
Yeah,
turn your
like it,
volume down. Can you turn your volume down, please? Huh? What happened? Wait a minute, y'all. I gotta get them back. Hold on. What happened, James? Come back. Hold on, y'all. All right, y'all, I'm back. We're gonna start on it until he's jumped back on here. So how many of y'all have seen the movie Antlers? How many of y'all seen that movie Antlers? Text it in the comments if y'all did. How many of y'all seen it? Okay, Alexander. Who else seen it? Scarborough, did you see it? YouTube, Yodo, did you see it? Let me know how many people seen it so we can start discussing it. Can you make it back? Just call me on Messenger. Who else seen that movie, y'all? So we can get ready to talk about that. Because I want to know what this thing really is. I got you. You ready? You back,
Yeah.
James?
Yep.
Okay. He back, y'all.
Yeah, I don't know what
Okay.
happened. My phone just turned black and went off.
Okay. Okay, James.
Okay, we get into the
Do
Wendigo
this.
here.
Yeah, do this before we jump into the Wendigo. Um, basically, so the three that you just talked about, all of them are different. None
They
of
all
them are
have
the same.
right there. It's believed that they all come from a same general root species, but they all deviated somewhere in their evolutionary history on Earth. That's the common consensus is that they're all related in some way, but they're all different in ways as they adapted to habitats. Um, just like the Jiniskawa learned how to use tools, and like when they would raid the Native American camps, they would run in with clubs and spears and use weapons against people. So I mean, it shows you they depending on where they live, they can become highly intelligent, or they can not have hardly any intelligence at all, just enough to survive. So, but
Right.
they're all different, but at the same time, they're kind of the same. It's more or
Okay.
less, if you see one, you'll be able to tell the difference in them.
Okay. Well, this is what we getting ready to do now, y'all, and we want to bust them in the head with this, and we're gonna need some people out there that really know what they're talking about, or or learn something from this. We getting ready to go into the Wendigo. Now, as far as the movie I told y'all to watch the other day, and it was called Antlers. Anybody in the chat right now have seen that movie? Tell me, what do you think the Wendigo is? Please text it in the comment. What do you think the Wendigo is for the ones that seen the movie? It's supposed to be based on the Wendigo. We know the movie wasn't real, but tell me what you think this creature is. What do you think it is? Um, James?
Well, personally, I believe that, and I take it from mythology that it was a Native American. Oftentimes, would in desperate times they would cannibalize a human being. They were facing starvation and death, and the only thing they had to eat was another human being. They did it, and it transformed them. by evil spirits. Some type of demon saw them eating human flesh and transformed them into a creature. I don't think it was necessarily the eating of flesh changed them. I believe it opens a gateway allowing that demon into your soul, because it does something to your psyche and to your soul to cannibalize someone. Now, as far as what it is, I think they're more human-like. Most of the Native American lore, and I found this interesting, most of the Native American lore, they do not have antlers.
Okay, go ahead, finish.
But like as I was saying, in most Native American lore, the Wendigo does not have antlers. It looks more like a human being with gray skin stretched over its skeleton. But they are typically looked at as a harbinger of harm and death, and they prefer to eat human hearts. There's been sightings of them that some of them have owl-like eyes. Some of them have large gangly claws and an emaciated body with their bones nearly poking through the skin. But at the same time, there's also been a lot of sightings of this large antlered creature that wears a skull over its face, or its head is a skull.
Right. That's how it's been depicted as.
Right.
That's why I'm trying to. All right, anybody in the chat room, what do y'all think it is? Do y'all think that's what it is? Somebody or something with something draped over its body?
Yeah, and it's not to be confused with the skinwalker. The skinwalker transforms itself through magic as being a shaman. The shaman wears the skin of an animal and transforms into that animal. The Wendigo is what it is all the time. It is always a Wendigo after it's been transformed.
Right. Okay. Okay. YouTube, Yoko, you can find it on HBO Max. HBO Max, or you can download an app off of inside the App Store.
Yeah, I know it's on Redbox too.
Huh? I was almost finished though. Yeah. You can get it off of really off of any kind of app, free app that's in the App Store. So what y'all think? Any takes on that? Anybody else got takes on that as far as this Wendigo creature? Do you think that, James, do you think that this thing can take over someone's body?
I definitely think that's the case. I think the human being suffers so much mental trauma from having to eat someone else to survive that it opens their soul, it opens them up to demonic possession, which turns them into this type of creature. I mean, I'm no expert, but that's what I personally believe. An interesting fact about the Wendigo, we talked about it earlier, was the movie Nightmare on Elm Street was actually taken from the Native American lore of the Wendigo. As the Wendigo attacks you, the spirit of the Wendigo is said to, in your dreams, attack you and either kill you in your sleep, you go to sleep and you never wake up, or it possesses you in your sleep and you turn into a Wendigo when you wake up. So
wow.
So Freddy Krueger, they say, is, I've heard a couple different people say different things, but I was watching a documentary about horror movies, and the guy that created, the director of the movie said that that's what they did. They went and they researched Native American lore, and that was the scariest thing that they could think of, was something that attacks you in your dreams, and there's no way you can defend yourself against it.
Wow. What y'all think? Like sleep paralysis.
Yeah,
That's
I've
what
had
that
that
is.
too.
Like sleep paralysis. That's crazy. A werewolf ripped my spine out. Now, Christine says she had a dream, a nightmare, where a werewolf ripped her spine out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's scary.
Now, Christine, do you read a lot of werewolf / dogman tales, or listen to a lot of stories, or basically take a lot of dogman werewolf information and watch the movies and all that?
Give her time to text you back.
Yep. Well, the reason why I ask is because after my first encounter, well, after both of my encounters, it took me almost 20 years to get over the flashbacks. I still have them occasionally. I wake up swinging. I wake up throwing punches, and my girlfriend asked me what I was doing. I said, "Damn dog man," and she just says, "Okay," and walks away. She knows exactly what I'm talking about.
So what y'all think? What do y'all really think this thing is? Y'all think it's something demonic? I mean, give us y'all point of view.
Also, to point out too, the Native Americans and First Nations people believe that a person can be turned into a Wendigo by a shaman. So they can use black magic against someone and turn them into a Wendigo outside of any demonic possession, or any of the normal means that we would say someone turns into a Wendigo. Somebody that has the power of dark magic can theoretically turn you into a Wendigo.
I seen a guy yesterday, right? A guy that do magicians. It's on TikTok or YouTube sometime, and it's just some of the stuff that he was doing. It just it's just impossible. And people always say that it's not real and all that. Some of that stuff is real. Some of that stuff, people have made deals with demons.
Some of it has to be, because, like, I mean, you watch people and they float 100 feet off the ground and they're just floating away.
He did
How do
that
you do that?
too. He did that too.
Yeah, it's not
That's
like they
why I said that.
levitate. They levitate a few inches off the ground. They literally float 100 feet in the air.
That's somebody that really sold their soul, ain't it?
It could be. Um, we have tales of the crossroad demons and things like that, where people sold their soul to be rock musicians or to be better at a sport, and if you've ever watched the show Supernatural, it's the deal. I've read about deals with demons, and that is actually fairly true, that they give you a certain amount of years. You don't get to live your whole life anymore. They give you a certain amount of time before you die. I mean that. I mean, I don't know the intricacies of how it works. I mean, I don't know if a demon just shows up to you and says, "Hey, you have 10 years to live, but for those 10 years, you'll be the best guitar player in the world." But, or if it's just something to where you summoned a demon and they just somehow that when you die, you're going to hell. They have your soul, and you don't know when you're going to die, just like normal. But the demon knows when it's going to take you.
Right.
Who knows? But by reading things, that seems to be a common thread, that they do have a certain amount of time based on what you ask of them. They'll give you a certain amount of time.
It's just crazy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about all the different things that are out there.
And
It's just it's crazy. I mean, some of
it's,
it.
it, I had a dream last night, right? And this was last night. I ain't telling nobody about it. I had a dream and I had a dream on this area so many times, and wherever this area was at, it was in the woods, and it was like a little cabin that was built out there. So I was staying there. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I was in there one day, and I heard something, sniffing and just like it was, tapping on the door, tat 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 tat. So
Oh yeah.
I goes and I looks. When I look, I don't see nothing because I'm looking at the people. When I go, I look, I don't see nothing. So I leave, go back. It does it again.
Hmm.
I goes and I look again. This time I look and I look down through the peephole and I see, I see I see what I thought was, just a dog. And I'm like, hold on, no goddamn dog just tap on no goddamn door and do all that. So I'm yelling through the door, get away, move, get away. So it looked up at me. It literally looked up at me and it made a face like I could picture that face as it made a face like saying, "Who the is you talking to? You
Yeah.
don't know you don't know we can ready to get you." So
Right.
it did one of them. So now I'm scared. So I make sure everything in the house is locked. Everything. Everything is locked. But it's an
Right.
extra bedroom that was in there.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that in this extra bedroom, the window was kind of up. And
Yeah.
I
So
didn't know
you
that.
get in.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. So when I find out, I goes in there and shut it and I lock it. So I goes back in, sitting down, and I'm on my phone, looking
Hmm.
at YouTube and stuff like that. So I start to I sniff. I'm like, what the hell? What is that smell? You know what I mean? So now I'm smelling something that smells like a dog, but it's
Hmm.
inside of the house. So I'm like, I gets up and I'm walking around, walks around, looks in all the rooms and stuff like that. Don't see nothing. So when I goes back in the front room and I'm walking with my head down as I'm walking in there. So when I goes in there, something just say, look up. And when
Hmm.
I look up, I see this, I see this creature standing by the front door, standing up bipedal. And I'm froze now. I'm just froze. Phone drop out my hand, hit the floor and everything. Boom.
Yeah.
And that's
Definitely.
when it's like his mind spoke. I told you we was gonna get you. So this thing just took one quick, like it just like you stepping for somebody that just took one and seemed like it was over there to me before I could even move.
Yeah.
But mind you, this I'm thinking this had to be a juvenile. It was small, and it wasn't real bulky, like like these adult ones is. So but
Right.
it's still looking down at me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm panicked now. I'm stuck. I'm gone. So it takes his hands and it kind of like where my neck at. It takes the claws and it just starts scraping down on the side of my neck. It's like it just instantly start bleeding. Blood just flowing out my neck now. So I'm like I'm really gone now. I'm gone. It's no use. So this thing turns around and walks back over, opens the fucking door like me or you would open it,
Yeah.
and out, goes out and it shut the door. I runs over there and I hurry up and lock it. Now, mind you, I'm still bleeding now, so I gotta clean my wound off and stuff. I gotta patch it and then put band-aids on it and stuff like that. So I do that. So out the front window, I can see out it and look right inside the tree line.
Hmm.
But when I do it this time, I see like 10 of these things out there.
Damn.
I'm like, oh my. And I was saying in my mind, I said, I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm just
Yeah.
counting off pieces, parts of my body, which they're going to take. That we're going to take this leg, that we're going to take a leg, that we're going to take my calf, my head, my arm, my liver. I'm naming everything that they're going to take. So they all started walking, but they on all fours, though. They all started walking towards the house.
Hmm.
And that's when the doorknob started to turn. It started to turn. I was like, I hope they don't come in here. I'm scared. I'm just scared. Now they started running and hitting the house. Boom! I mean, sounding like bulldozer.
Oh
And when
yeah.
one hit that door and it slung open and went to go, it just had its mouth open when it came through the door. It just had its mouth open like it was coming for my throat. Had to wake up. I
Hmm.
had to wake up on that. I woke up around that time. I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's some lucid
I've been
dreaming.
having some, I've been having some crazy dreams, man. I had a dream where I don't know what state it was in, but my dream would always take me to this certain part at one of these state forests where these creatures, it seemed like they just flourished there. It was so many of them, man. And I used to always have that dream about that. And I was like saying in my mind, I'm like, damn, I wish I knew where this was at.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you could go look at it, maybe you can reconcile it.
Right. That's why I be telling people in the chat, y'all, do y'all think that these dogman creatures, Bigfoot too, but we're gonna say dogman creatures mostly follow people home? Do y'all think that these creatures are intelligent enough to follow people home? Because it have been documented that they have did this.
They did it to
So do
me.
y'all think so?
Yeah, Marvin, they did it to me. They followed me home after they trailed my scent all the way back to my house. Like I said, they come up and they beat on my house. They bang on my doors and windows and walls,
Yeah.
and they tried to
Now,
break into my basement.
now, now, Moose McGraw said he saw a lady face change from an old man, and it looked at gray pale.
Hmm. That's actually characteristics of Wendigo. Is that gray pale skin? Did it look skeleton like it was real? Um, oh, what's the word? Real emaciated to where it didn't have much muscle tone. It was just like skin stretched over the bone.
Right. That's what you think?
Could be. I mean, we don't know. Personally, I believe we don't know 10% of what's out there, and it could be anything from a shapeshifter to a Native American shaman that can change its form, and just he happened to catch it, trying to keep itself from changing. And sometimes that happens. You catch somebody that just something's not right about them, and you kind of watch them, and you see something like that happen. I mean, it's like I said, I don't. We know maybe 10% of what's out there, and the rest of it is the scientific community tells you it's a bunch of BS and it's hearsay and it's all myths and stuff. Well, like I said, I kind of felt that way before my encounters with stuff, because you're trying to think logically about it and tell yourself there's no such thing as monsters, but unfortunately there's reasons for all of these stories and mythology and all the lore. There's a reason for it, and it's not just to keep kids in their houses at night.
We know they exist, James. Whether people
Exactly. I
want to
mean,
believe it or not.
yeah. I mean, if if I come
Whether
face to
people want
face
to
with one
whether people
again,
want to believe it or not, we know they exist.
exactly. And I have pictures of them.
We
Oh,
know that we
and
know that we know they exist. And another thing, what do you know about the goat man?
the goat man, I really haven't done a whole lot on yet. I was thinking about doing a piece on it. What I know right now about it is that a it's a creature that lives in Virginia and Maryland,
Mm.
and actually on my one project here, I do believe I had the goat man on here. I just have to locate him, but we can talk while I'm doing that. Um,
Yeah,
I've
I know
heard
they
that.
definitely in. I know they definitely in Maryland.
Yeah, I've heard Maryland and I've heard Virginia. In southern Virginia, north northeastern Virginia, and then in southern Maryland, southeastern Maryland, and south central Maryland. My uncle actually lives in Baltimore, and they drove out into the country 3 hours away, and he said that they swear to God they saw something that he couldn't describe. He said it looked like a goat walking on its hind legs through the woods. So I don't know if he's just messing with me, because he's my uncle, and my family likes to do that sometimes. They like to tease you because he knows I'm into this stuff. But I at the same time, I mean, he actually seemed very, very straightforward about it. He didn't seem like he was just making fun or anything. He was looking at me like dead serious. And he was a Marine for 22 or 23 years, and I'm sure he's seen some stuff. He was a Marine for 22 or 23 years.
Right.
I found the goat man, Maryland goat man.
It's just crazy.
Oh yeah, I can pop up the stuff because my one project I put a lot of links to sites on it for information to save people time. Um, yeah, let's see here. So, according to Cryptid's fandom, the goat man is supposed to be a hybrid creature, a man-made hybrid creature that lives in Beltsville, Maryland. And Supposedly, it was a scientific experiment that they
That
somehow
went
somehow
wrong.
it got out.
That went wrong. That went wrong.
Yeah, unless they were actually
I
trying to
have read.
create it.
Right. Mix his blood with the goat.
Yeah, like splice their DNA somehow. Um, but yeah, I mean, we have to look at it like this. We know that our government is creating chimera projects. They're they're creating hybrid animals all the time. They're hybriding them with humans. They won't tell you that. That's all uh, the black budget type projects um, that they're splicing human DNA with animals. I mean, look what they tell you publicly. I mean, not too long ago they showed you that they were able to grow a human ear on a rat. So tell me they're not tampering with human DNA. How'd they figure that out if they're not tampering with human DNA?
Right. Absolutely right.
Even if they surgically attached it to the rat, the rat would reject it. Its body would reject it, but clearly that one wasn't. So that somehow their DNA is similar enough, their blood types are similar enough that it just allows it to grow.
Right.
And according to this, in 1977, there was there were two couples on a double date. They heard something scratching outside of their car, and when they turned their headlights on, there was a goat man standing there, and it started running at them, and it hit the car with an axe. Like I said, how much of that's true, we don't know. There's no,
Right.
you know, but like I said, it doesn't really matter if every story is true. If one story is true, then they all could be true.
Bingo.
And and like I said, like growing up, I watched lots of horror movies and stuff like that. And I didn't think werewolves were real, but they are. So, I mean, they're not werewolves in the traditional sense. They're dogmen, but that thing actually exists, and if it can exist, what else can?
Right.
I mean, all of this stuff is in mythology and lore. I mean, everything from vampires to the fairy folk are, they're in all this old literature and stuff. And, our ancestors, we like to look at our ancestors as they were stupid and superstitious and they didn't know jack, but they were pretty smart. They knew what was going on. You know, yeah, I'm not saying they weren't superstitious, more than us, but you had to be because there wasn't science telling you what things were. People wrote down what they saw, what they experienced.
Right. And that's the thing about it. And I be telling people that's just like the Egyptians. They only wrote on the wall what they seen.
Exactly.
That's everything that
Exactly.
they seen over time. They wrote on the wall.
Yeah, and we see all over Mesoamerica, Central America, Egypt, and parts of Africa, other parts of Africa, parts of Europe, parts of England where they have those large pyramidal mounds. Um, all over the world, we find these pyramid-like structures that have carvings of extraterrestrials and dogmen and lizard people and all kinds of different creatures. But like you said, the Egyptians especially, I mean, they had dogmen, cat people, lizard people, It wouldn't snake people. Well, wouldn't surprise me if they had snail people. I mean, they had so many different things. I mean, which like the archaeologists and scientists will tell you that, oh, well, that's because they revered the dog highly, or they revered the cat highly, or the snake was important for this reason, or whatever. That's why they decided to make their gods into these animals. I don't think any logical person would do that. You would be seeking the God that created that thing, not that it's a god. So it's hard to say. You there, Marvin? Well, let's see here. While I wait for Marvin to come back, if you guys can hear me, I did a project called 50 Cryptids in 50 States. I'll just go through and I will name off. This is in no way a list of ranking or anything. This is just a list that I made up, found cryptids for each state. I tried to find the more obscure ones that people don't hear about every day, but also at the same time, some of them were just too famous to not put them in. And I also added the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. We have Alabama, the Alabama white fang. Alaska, the Alaskan Kushtaka. These are all fun things to research, guys. Arizona, the Mogollon monster. It's spelled Mogollon. Arkansas is the folk monster, which is pretty famous. California, we have the Fresno night crawlers. Colorado, we have the Tommy knockers that harass men in mines. Connecticut, the melon heads, which they're freaky looking. I don't care what anybody says, they're freaky looking. Delaware is the puckwudgie, which is a creature that looks similar to a porcupine and has quills like a porcupine. And I would assume if it stabs you with them, they work their way back into your skin, much like a porcupines do. And they're mean. They're very mean. They will come after you. Florida, we have the Wampus cat. Basically a large striped leopard type animal. Georgia has its lake monster. Altamaha. Spelled very weird. Hawaii, the Manahune. Mehune. Idaho is the Nimragar, which is like a little troll type monster. In Illinois, we have the Enfield Horror. Indiana has Meshikabik. What? Meshikabik, which is a sea monster. Iowa has dragons.
A lot of cryptids. Every state got their own.
Yep. Kansas has winged demons. They're bat-like creatures.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're pretty nuts. I looked into them further, and basically they look like if you took an owl's head
But
with no
every state,
feathers and stuck it on a bat's body, but this thing's the size of a fox bat, and it attacks you and tries to suck your blood. That's what they did. We have the Beast of LBL for Kentucky, the Land Between the Lakes monster. Louisiana's the Rougarou. Maine, I did Cassie, and she has a huge area that she swims in. Maryland's the Goat Man. Massachusetts is the Dover Demon. Michigan is obviously the Dog Man. Minnesota also has its form of a Dog Man.
y'all should be writing it down.
The only difference between the Minnesota Dogman and the Michigan Dogman that I can find is
Name
that they aren't as heavily built. The Minnesota Dogmen aren't as powerful looking and heavily built as their counterparts, but still, you should give this creature respect, leave it be. They're very dangerous. Mississippi, I did the Chattawa monster, which it's a Bigfoot type monster, Bigfoot type creature. There have been multiple sightings across Louisiana and Mississippi over the years. Missouri, I did Momo, the Missouri Monster. This one is crazy. You should look into it for yourself. It's speculated that Momo was an alien, that its ship come down and it came out and started attacking people, and after doing its nefarious deeds, got back in the ship and took off. It just came to harass us and then took off. Montana is the Shunka Warkin. It's basically like a saber-toothed tiger. It's like if you combined a wolf, a dog, a coyote, and like a saber-toothed tiger together. That's what they look like. Nebraska has a lake monster, which I would have never thought a landlocked state would have a water monster like this. But I guess you have lakes all over the place that are large enough to harbor a beast. It's the Walgren Lake monster. For some reason, it doesn't have the name on it. I don't know why, even though I put it on all of them. New Hampshire have the Woods Devils. They are pale humanoids. You can look up more on pale humanoids on phantomsandmonsters.com, and they do a show every Friday at 9, and they frequently talk about winged and pale humanoids, if you're interested in that. New Jersey, instead of the Jersey Devil, I thought I would do something a little different, and I did the Big Red Eye. It's basically a giant Sasquatch. I mean, like a 12-foot Sasquatch. Well, 12 to 15-foot Sasquatch. It can look in second-story windows and be halfway to three-quarters of the way up the window, and it has deep red glowing eyes. New Mexico, we have the Thunderbird, which most desert states have reports of the Thunderbirds, but they also have them in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio. I mean, all over the place. There's reports of the Thunderbirds. They're giant reptilian birds or feathered birds sometimes. Just depends on what mythology you follow. and they're most commonly referred to as pterosaurs or pterodactyls or pterodons. New York has the well-known champ, river monster, lake monster, ocean monster. Um, the Lake Champlain monster. North Carolina has the moon-eyed people, which they're speculated to be, they could be sprites, spirits, extraterrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, or some people believe that they were a race of small woodland fairies that would actually help people. Other reports say they killed people by, I read one report that said they drained the life force from people who they help. So I don't know about that. I've only seen one report that said that. So Minnewashi, it looks like a goat man with one horn sticking out of the front of its forehead, right centered in its forehead. It has spikes and spines going down its back, long floppy ears, and one giant eye in the middle of its face. It also has fangs and a weird looking tail. And like I said, it stands on its hind legs, and that's how it walks. Ohio, you have the Loveland Frogman. The Loveland Frogman, which it's exactly what it sounds like. It's like the crossover between a man and a frog. If anybody would like, I have a couple pictures of it. You can find them easy on Google, but I found them and saved them for projects. But I have pictures of what very possibly could be the Loveland Frogman. It's something in the water with reflective glowing eyes, and its head sticking out of the water, and it's staring at the guy with the camera. Oklahoma has a lake, and it has a giant octopus. It's rumored to be living in it. So, who knows? A landlocked octopus. That's kind of crazy. Then you have Oregon, which, we could do Bigfoot for Oregon too. It wouldn't be hard. The entire Pacific Northwest is a hot spot for Bigfoot, the same way the Eastern Coast is. The Appalachian Mountains, the Rocky Mountains, Florida swamps, the rainforests in the Northwest, all good areas for Bigfoot. But I focus more on the gumbaroo, is what it's called. It's a little pig-looking creature with a lot of teeth. I'll let you look out and up for yourself, because it's a decent sized creature. Actually, it's bear-like more than pig-like. It just looks pig-like in the face with a hint of bear, and they look like they could mess you up pretty good. It's kind of like a hairless black bear. And then Pennsylvania, we have all kinds of creatures in Pennsylvania. We have dogmen, Bigfoot, Sasquatch people. We have ETs, ultra terrestrials. We have the wee ones. We have all kinds of cryptids in Pennsylvania, but I did the squonk. It's a little pig-looking creature. But anyway, well, we're running out of time, so we have conferred to do a part 2 and finish up these cryptids. We'll leave off with Pennsylvania.
Yeah, because I want you to come back, and I definitely want you to finish that up. And I know it's probably some things that you didn't get to, because when you come back on, James, I want you to talk about some encounters that people have shared with you as well. So that would be good for when you come back on.
Okay.
So as always, I want to thank everyone that showed up and showed out and listened to the things my witness James West had to share tonight. I hope it just might help one person, even if it helped one person open their eyes and to see that these things are real. And even if it have make, and even if he said something to make one person come forward and tell their encounter, I mean, that would make us. We would be so grateful just for that. We hope I hope that he gave y'all something that y'all can lay back and ponder with, and say, oh wow, I didn't even know that, because there's a lot of things I wanted to ask him about the gugwe and all that, but I'm gonna save that for part two. So when we do part two, what we're gonna do is, in the beginning of the show, we're gonna just ask questions. We're gonna just discuss questions for the first 30 to 45 minutes of the show before he starts telling his encounter. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna just get in the questions and ask, well, what about this? Because I wanted to get into the Mothman, that people have seen. I want to get into the Jersey Devil, like he was saying, that people have seen. I want to get his outlook on, do he think mermaids exist or any aquatic life is out there, even though it's so much ocean and we ain't even touched the surface of it. I want to ask him, do he believe that there's still pterodactyls still flying around out here, or is Nessie real? It's a whole lot of stuff that we're gonna dig in part two. So just stay tuned for that. I want to thank each and every one again for showing up and showing out, and we'll see y'all on the next true Dub Man Encounter. Good night, y'all. Let's get it.
All right, guys.
All right, I went on and did it. Wait a minute, hold on.